Good morning. Welcome. What is it today? Thursday. Welcome to Thursday's craft. It's really sunny again today, so I'm absolutely baking. So I'm going to make this hot. Make it quick. But being nice and warm makes it perfect for doing this craft because it will dry really quickly. So I'm going to show you today how to make salt dough. So it doesn't have to be for the project that I'm making. You can make salt dough, you can colour it different ways with food colouring and paints and things, and then you can just let the children play with it. So it can just be like a bit like a Play-Doh, without the brand, without the colour, without the expense, but also it's edible if you've got little ones that are likely to put things in their mouth. It's not very nice, but it won't hurt them if they do eat a little bit of it. Saying that, I do actually alter the recipe. So I'll talk you through the basic recipe that is edible if you've got little ones, and then I will add an ingredient that is definitely not edible if you've got older ones. So please join me. Please share this as well with your friends if they've got children. Share this around. A lot of people are doing different things and coming back to it later in the day, but lots of people have joined the group, which is great to see. So I'm seeing photos coming in of people with their crafts that they're making. This one's a really nice one to make as a gift for somebody, but also for around the house. But like I say, I mean, salt dough is such a great material or medium for children to play with because it's safe. So let's see what we need first of all. So a few basic things. The essentials are a mixing bowl. I've got a small one. This actually doubles up as a mould later on as well. A spoon and a knife. Now the knife needs to be not a sharp knife, a dinner knife is absolutely fine. And a spoon just for mixing, could be a wooden spoon or whatever. I've got a cup of water here. You don't need too much. Some sort of measuring cup or spoon so that you can measure out parts equally. I've got plain flour, just some salt as well. Glitter is optional, completely optional. Glue is the one that I'm going to add into mine because my children are old and no one's going to be eating this. But like I say, if you've got toddlers, young babies that might get hold of this, don't add the glue in. I'll explain that while I'm doing it. I've also got here some dried flowers, or not dried flowers, sorry, they're flowers I've just picked in my garden. And they're about the only little flowers that I could find at the moment. But if I went for a little walk around the fields or something, I'm sure I'd find some more. But these are just really pretty as an additional extra. So as well as the glitter, they are optional. And then the glue as well. Okay, so what we're going to do first of all is I'm going to show you the recipe for mixing up salt dough. It's so simple. So let's delve in first of all. Now flour. I understand some people are struggling to get flour at the moment, so maybe this is a recipe for saving later on, for when you can get hold of it. But you want to use plain flour ideally, because when this is setting, when it's drying, if you've got any sort of heat around, you don't really want it expanding like self-raising flour could sort of promote that. So just some plain flour. Now I've got my little measuring cup here. I'm not going to tell you how much to use except in parts, because if you're making a small amount, a little cup like this is plenty. If you want to make a lot for children and colour it different ways, then maybe you want to use an actual big cup or something to measure it out. So what you need is 2 parts of the flour. I'm doing level heaps. There we go. And then 1 part of salt. So put your salt onto the one that pours out quite quickly. Pour it into the same cup. And I'll show you in a moment. Fill up. Takes a little while for salt to come out. It's so slow. It's going to come back again. There we go. That's a bit quicker. And a level cup or dispenser of salt. Don't forget to close the cap on the salt afterwards. Okay, so what you want to do is just get your hand in there and just mix that up. Spoon if you'd rather, but make sure your hands are clean if anyone's likely to be putting this in the mouth. But it is only flour and salt, so it should be pretty safe at the moment. Make sure that all that salt is mixed into the flour. Okay. Now we're going to add some water. Now, if you measure out 1 cup of water, so you've got 1 part of water, to 1 part of salt to 2 parts of flour then, and just add in half of it roughly and give that a mix round. You don't need to get your fingers in at the minute. I know it's tempting to get your fingers in and knead it for some people, but you don't need to do that just yet. So disperse that as much as you possibly can. At the moment, it will be too dry at the moment still. Some people say you can use half a cup for this, but I think that's nowhere near enough. So it probably depends on the flour you're using, the brand and everything, how absorbent it is. So really you're going to probably want to put most of this cup of water in. Okay, and you'll notice it will start to cling together, and in a moment you can start getting your hands in there when it's less crumbly. But just mixing it, I'm just pressing it down. I was trying to knead it a little bit with my spoon. Now I'm going to get my fingers messy. Okay, so I'm going to put the last bit of the water in. I'm going to use my hands to squelch it and mix it. Now, if you find that actually your dough seems to be really wet, you can add a little bit more flour in. If you find it's still too dry, you can add a little bit more of the water in. So it's like that. But the 2 parts to 1 part to 1 part is a really good starting point. See, that seems to be a little bit wet at the moment. Make sure it's all... So what you're looking for is, as if you were making biscuits, you want the dough to be all sticking together, but not so much that you can't move it around. There we go. So I just need to add a little bit of flour to this, tiny little bit, just a sprinkling. You'll notice that there isn't a lot of leeway with this. So there we go. Just mix that flour in. That's better. That's taken a little bit of that water out. Perfect. Okay, so what I'm going to do now, before I mix it anymore, get some of the excess off my hands, because does get messy. Again, it's a great one to be in the garden with, because it's a lovely day again, and make the most of this week. So I don't know what the weather's going to do. Hopefully it will stay like this while we're indoors, because at least the children can go out in the garden. So glitter, I'm going to add some glitter in here. Now this is optional, but I like to add a fair bit. And then I'm also going to add, this is the bit, so the glitter and the glue. If you're doing this with young children, I'd say don't use this. Okay, opt not to put the glitter and the glue in, because, well, for obvious reasons, they don't want to be eating that. If you're doing it for slightly older ones or ones you can trust not to put in their mouths, this bit's fine. So for the glue, I'm not using a lot. I'm really not. This just helps to stop it from being crumbling. You won't find this in most of the recipes online that you see. I'm using a tiny amount here. It's probably about a tenth. I just need that to scoop out. About a tenth of a cup here. So it really is a small amount. Just enough to help everything stick together. And then, this is a PVA glue, by the way. It's just a general white paper glue. Really easy to find in the shops. Most supermarkets will still have it. I don't know what shops are still open at the moment. You can see I've got my glitter running through there a little bit, and then I've got my glue. I'm just going to now take this out of the bowl because it's all stuck together quite nicely. And on here I'm just going to pick up any of those stray bits of flour as well, because I can, and carry on kneading that. Make sure everything's mixed in nicely. If you have any areas, any patches of the glitter in here, they could crumble when this dries. So make sure everything is in there. Good morning, Kerry. Good morning, Mark. Hello, Mark. I haven't spoken to you as such online for a long time. You're still about. Asda Sell It. Is that the glue you're talking about, maybe, the Asda Sell? That's handy to know, actually. So there we go. So I've now got my salt dough ready. So it's just like Play-Doh, as you can see. Really good fun to use and pretty safe around the little ones. So we're going to roll this quite smooth. Just making sure there's no creases in there, the same way as you would with, I don't know, if you were making biscuits. Just make sure you're still all there, because my phone has said it's gone. Yeah, I've gone, but I think I'm still here. I hope I'm still here. Someone give me a comment. Yeah, I am. My phone's just playing silly. Glue, yes, thank you, Mark. Okay, so flatten that out. This is where, make sure it's not sticking too much to your mat. If you need to put a little bit of flour down on your mat, do so. Flour, or the other option is cling film, just to prevent that from sticking. Okay, so now we're going to make the project, okay, that I was talking about. Now, my project, obviously, I did this last night and it worked really well, and then it didn't quite have time to dry till this morning, and I picked it up and broke it, so I was really upset about that. But what I need to do now, so I have flattened this from a ball. I've flattened it out to around about 1 centimetre thick. Then I need to come and ask my son, is he here? There he is, come here. My hand's too big for this, so I need a little hand. So what I'm going to do is brush a little bit of flour on the surface. Got a little hand for me? Is it a clean hand? It'll do. Right, so what we're going to do is, oh, your hand's only just big enough. Press a little hand into the surface gently, not too much. That's it, and let go. Thank you very much. So we've got a handprint there. And then what I'm going to do is press some pretty flowers into this as well. Now, we're not really looking for the handprint as such. What we're actually looking for is the shape of the hand, because if you've ever tried to cut out or make a hand yourself, draw a hand yourself, it's actually really hard. So I'm just going to press some pretty flowers into there as well. Another petal or two up there. Let's see if I can press that one in there. So popping your flowers in, and then we're going to cut around the hand. That's where the knife comes in. So good morning, Tony. Thank you for joining me. Just making salt dough here, or made some salt dough. Really, really easy to make. And then we're going to make an ornament. This is actually like a hand-shaped bowl, which is lovely for putting jewellery in or throwing your keys in, depending on the size of the hand, or just lovely for children to have a keepsake of how tiny their hand was when they were little. I love that. Did anyone else, when your children are probably still all little if you're watching this, I presume, but did anyone else keep like their first pair of shoes and their first clothing and things, just to remember how tiny they were? They were so cute. I did. I actually framed my daughter's first shoes. I'm sure I probably did it with my son as well, but I just found my daughter's the other day. Ah. So just cutting around. It's really soft, so it's really, really easy to do. It's a bit like a, well, it's just like Play-Doh. Just like, I will use the brand name. Just like Play-Doh. Just gently scraping away any bits. Like I say, if you pop this onto cling film, it's really, really easy to lift this up in a moment. Come all the way round, down to the little finger, little pinky. There we go. Now I haven't pressed those flowers in too hard, because they will flatten in a moment anyway, is what we're going to do. There we go. So now we've got handprint. Blimey, my son's hands have grown since he was little, a lot. They were tiny and I thought he had smaller hands than that. So what I'm going to do now is bring back in the bowl that we use. The bottom is nice and clean. If you want to add a little bit of flour to the top of the bowl. So Mark says he's joined us halfway through, so can I explain what salt dough is? Of course. So salt dough is like Play-Doh, and it is very simply, it's 2 parts plain flour, 1 part salt, 1 part water. Now the optional extras with this are a little bit of PVA glue, I mean a 1/10 of a cup, a tiny little dribble, and I've added some glitter in this as well to make it a little bit sparkly. This is the hardest part here, is picking it all up. And we're going to place it onto this bowl, like so. Okay, so you're bending it round like that. Okay, and that's where we're going to leave it to dry. Now you can neaten up, make sure you straighten up any fingers that have gone a little bit wonky. Just straighten those up a little bit. Make sure that the gaps between the fingers are nice and neat. There we go, just using my knife and my fingers, and just press down ever so gently. Like I say, I did put a little bit of flour on there beforehand. And now what you're going to do is, as it's a lovely day, just stand this outside. It's going to take a few hours. You do have the option as well of putting this either in the oven on a really low heat for a couple of hours, or popping it in the microwave for 10 seconds at a time. It will dry quite quickly, but I prefer to let it air dry. It reduces any cracking, it reduces any burning as well. Obviously, if you put it in the oven, the flour can burn and such. This is the underside, okay? And because you're doing it on this bowl, it will have a flat base there. Now, if I just gently turn this over whilst holding it, you can see you've got the flowers in there and the sort of shape it will be when it dries. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to dry this off over the next day or so, just air dry it. After a few hours, you'll find you can tip that into your hand and you can stand it somewhere where it's not going to get moved around or touched, and allow the underneath to dry a bit more. Once that's dry, you can leave it, and it's a fantastic little dish. Or you can paint it, or you can add like a gloss to it or a varnish if you want to. But don't do like me, don't keep fiddling. Okay, so that's how that is. And I will put on a photo of that in a little while. Now you can also, with these, you can make so many things. Just treat it like Play-Doh. You can colour it, as I said, with food colouring and things. You can put it into a sealed bag, so a food bag, something that's airtight. Make sure before you do that, you wrap some cling film around it so there's no gaps, so nothing will dry. It is basically like an air dry clay. As you can see, I've got the glitter in mine. I don't know if you can just see the sparkles of the glitter or not, but I can. But the glitter and all the colour and flowers and everything is completely optional. So I will seal this and make other things later. Things like, I know another one actually. We'll do this. Roll it into a ball. This is nice for the children to make as gifts as well. Think about your Christmas gifts. While the children are in and doing creative things, get them making things for you. So just a ball. You can use cookie cutters as well with this, but I like to use my salt pot as a roller because I don't have my rollers to hand. Roll this out flat. If you get yourself a leaf or something, press the leaf in so it leaves the imprint and take it out again. You have got some gorgeous coasters when they've dried as well. 3 or 4 of those as a gift for somebody would be really, really pretty. Or what about this? Pressing just one flower into it. I'm going to leave that one to dry now. And that's going to be a coaster. Again, I would maybe put a bit of varnish over the top when you're finished. But there's some fun ideas for the kids to do as presents or things around the house. So let me know if you try the salt dough and how you get on with it. I'd love to hear what you make as well. And I'd love to see your hand dishes as well. They'll be really cool. So I can't wait to actually flip mine over and see this when it's all dried out. I'm going to go put it in the sun now, and I will be back tomorrow morning with another craft before the weekend. Don't forget, tomorrow at the end of the day, I will be announcing the name of somebody who's going to win a few bits of craft items I'm going to post out. So every Friday I'll be posting craft items out to one person. So the way you need to be in with a chance of that is by joining the group on my Facebook page. It's I think it's Lou Collins Children's Crafts. Join the group. I'll accept your application to join, I suppose it is. I can't think of a better word for it. And then I will pick a winner from the people who have been posting photos of their children or what their children have been making. I understand you don't always want to post photos of children. But if you just let me know what they've been making, and it doesn't have to be from these videos either. Okay, so I hope you all have a lovely day. Get out in the garden if you can, because it's lovely and sunny. And try these crafts, and I'd love to see them. And I'll see you again tomorrow morning. Okay, take care, everybody. Bye-bye.